our history, nearly 17 years on the air, we've had the opportunity to bring you TV pilot makers who make their pilots and get them showcased at all sorts of film and television festivals like Series Fest in Denver, the New York Television Festival, the Norfolk Festival in Long Island, and many other places. One of those places that's been doing it for quite a while is Dances with Films, which celebrated its 25th anniversary 2 years ago, last month, in Los Angeles. This year was the 27th edition, and once again, and they've been doing this for several years now, they've given the opportunity for TV series pilot makers to showcase their work. And we're going to meet three of them in a matter of moments. All of them had their pilots showcased sometime last weekend, either on June 29th or June 30th. Let's meet them one by one. First of all, joining us live from Los Angeles is the creator, or I should say co-creator, and producer of a pilot called World Twistories. That's World Twistories, and we're talking about Brian Wallace. Brian, welcome in.
Hi, Simon. It's great to join you. Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure. And Brian, we'll start with you. Tell us about World Twistories. How did you come up with the pilot?
Well, World Twistories is a series about eccentric people throughout time and their offbeat ideas and how they pursued them. Our pilot is focused on a man from the 1700s who opened up a coffee shop, but it was a Latin-speaking coffee shop. You had to speak Latin in order to get coffee or they wouldn't let you in. And I suppose it started because one of my favorite childhood memories was when my mother had me skip school one day. It was her idea, not mine. And I think she took off work and she put me in the car and she drove me to St. Augustine, Florida. We went to the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum, and it was just a wonderful afternoon with my mom. And from that point, I developed this abiding interest in interesting people, folks that were just offbeat and eccentric and had these untamed impulses and decided to pursue them in public. Many years later, I moved to Los Angeles, as a lot of delusional stage actors in New York do, and I reconnected with a friend of mine from drama school, Matt Mitchell, who's one of the co-creators of World Twistories. And we decided to make our own films. We did that, started getting into some film festivals. And we kept getting into the same film festivals as these two English guys, Paul and James Longley. And we really hit it off and enjoyed each other's work. And, one of the great things about film festivals is meeting fellow travelers and figuring out how you can collaborate together. And this was during the pandemic when everybody was figuring out how to create content under these conditions. And in addition, we had an ocean in between us because Matt and I live in Los Angeles and the Longley brothers live over in the old country. So this idea presented itself. The division of labor just fell into place. We brought new people in and nobody ever said no. And then what we have here is World Twistories.
Brian, talk about the plot for your pilot, because it deals with a coffee shop. It deals with people speaking Latin in London. Did you do any research to find out if it was actually true, or at least speculated to be true? And then from there, how did you get the pilot made?
Yeah, sure. Everything in World Twistories is absolutely true and research. What's interesting is that the man who opened a Latin-speaking coffee shop was a man named Richard Hogarth. And he was the father of the painter William Hogarth, who's a very famous painter from that time and had a little bit of a satirical bent. So I was reading a book about William Hogarth, and it just mentioned one line that his father had opened a Latin-speaking coffee shop, and that's all I could find out about it. So I just thought that was an inherently funny idea. So what we do is that we combine sketch comedy with sit-down interviews with legitimate historians and museum curators to add context to the idea and find out, what this person was thinking. And so you don't want to know too much when you're writing the comedy because you just want to let your imagination go in that direction. But we got it made because it's interesting when we were figuring out who was going to do which part of it, the sketch comedy versus the historian interviews. Paul and James Longley, they live in London, and that's where the coffee shop was, and they found out where the actual coffee shop was. It's in a medieval priory that's over 1,000 years old. They spoke to the museum curator who said, oh, yeah, we know a lot about this. We can add context, and they agreed to be our on-air contributor for that pilot.
So, Brian, bring it home. Easiest, toughest thing about your situation?
The easiest thing was assembling the team. Paul and James over the UK know what they're doing. My film partner over here, Matt, is an old pro. The people who came on board, the actors, Whit Spurgeon, Bill Pryor, and Chris Hatfield, the composer, Roman Falkenstein, these are all people who know how to do this much better than I do. So getting them to work together, they're all very wonderful people. I knew they'd get along and create something special. The hardest thing, honestly, is actually right now. Getting into Dances with Films opened up an array of opportunities for us. And, I don't know that we've actually been this far before. So figuring out what to do now. I know how to do the things we've already done to make it, but what to do with it at this point is going to be where the real learning curve kicks in.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second. But first, prior to Dances with Films last weekend, had this been seen elsewhere? And if so, what was the reaction?
For World Twistories, no. This was the world premiere at Dances with Films. We showed it to a couple of other people. We had a sneak peek screening with a very, very small audience, and it was received very, very well. Everybody who's watched it has just really embraced it. But Dances with Films was the official world premiere. What was the public reaction? And again, was there some feedback that came out of left field for you? A little bit, yeah. I mean, everything was very positive. It's hard to, decide what's genuine and what's not because you're in the heat of the moment there. But everybody really had a great time, as I knew they would. Our host, Paul Longley, spending 23 minutes with him, it's hard to come out of that not feeling like he had a good day. The feedback that did take me by surprise was that there was another filmmaker in our block who made a brilliant movie. And he did say to me that his 11-year-old daughter liked ours better than his. So that's a good sign. I feel, that's something I certainly didn't expect, but I'm certainly gratified by. So from here, where does World Twistories go? Any nibbles from anybody in TV land about making it a series? Do you take it to other festivals? Do you work on other projects? What's ahead? Sure, yeah. I haven't had any official nibbles yet. I'm doing everything I can to, throw my line out there. We did get in, before Dances with Films was over, we did get into the Fort Smith Film Festival in Arkansas this August, and we submitted to that because there is a film market attached to that, the Mid-America Film Market. So I want to go down there and see how that works and see if I have a better chance of selling it out there. In the meantime, we have it pending at some other very high-end festivals, similar caliber to Dances with Films. And we're hoping to make our first feature this fall, my partner Matt and I. And we have a couple of other smaller films out there in circulation. Final question, are you more, or given the experience with Dance with Films, and you've gone through it, are you more or less optimistic that you will find a place in television as a series maker? I'm more optimistic. I think that the Dances with Films experience was so overwhelmingly positive, and you're seeing what the opportunities are. And I think what makes me even more optimistic about assignment is that I was in a festival with Lauren and Katie. I knew Lauren a little bit. We were in the same festival in 2019 back in Mexico, and her previous project, Girl Boxer, was amazing. And so I knew that she's a voice to be reckoned with for a long time, and getting to know Katie was very special. Katie and I were in the same panel of pilots, and she asked a question or made a declaration about how one of the other things that the three of us have in common is that we've made our own pilots. We didn't just write them, we actually made them. And all the big shots on the panel said, oh, yeah, you know what, I'm thinking about doing that myself. And so it's very comforting and inspiring, I think, to feel like you're part of some vanguard of people who are kind of doing something, taking their own work into their own hands and getting it out there. And I think that as long as I'm in the company of people like Lauren and Katie and the people of their caliber, I have no reason but to feel optimistic about what we can do in this space. And we will leave it there. If you want to know more about Dance with Films and the TV series pilots that they have showcased not just this past weekend but in the recent years, you go to dancewithfilms.com online, dancewithfilms.com online. We will monitor how these three are faring in terms of making their pilot series. We'll keep you posted on the developments, and if they do show it at a place near you, we'll let you know that as well. Brian Wallace in Los Angeles, thank you for coming on. Congratulations on what you had with Dance with Films. Don't forget, coming your way on Monday, we will have Katie Robbins, the creator, executive producer, and showrunner of Sunny, the new Apple TV Plus mystery thriller starring and executive produced by Rashida Jones. Kieran Clark, the chief executive of Mental Health Television Network, and Paul Martin and Warren Smith, the executive producers of the new Netflix sports docuseries Sprint, which premiered yesterday. If you came in late on today's episode, want to catch up on not this episode, but all of our episodes this week and earlier,
Well, go to our homepage, blogtalkradio.com/televised. Go to themarbytelevised.com and all of our podcast destinations. Remember, you can always reach me on social media at LinkedIn and Facebook at Simon Applebaum, X at UBC Simon WBT. We do respond to you when you respond to me within 24 hours, because what you say matters now more than ever. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants. They are not those of Blog Talk Radio, Speaker Tuner Radio, and other carriers of this program. Andy Toe's BTR Zero Manager, Jay Sonnenberg is Content Executive. Website serviced by On Podium. Guitarist Vegas is our web coordinator. Tomorrow Televised is brought today by Wild, the reusable, refillable, natural deodorant kind of your body and the planet. For Tomorrow Televised, I'm Simon Applebaum in New York. Thank you for your listening today and all week long. Have a fantastic 4th of July holiday weekend with your family and friends. Make it as safe and great as possible. Back on Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, New Pacific. You know where? Blog Talk Radio, Speaker Tuner Radio, all of our podcasts and web destinations. Again, whatever you're doing between now and the end of the 4th of July holiday weekend, make it as safe and great as possible. And remember, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with you. Until the next time, stay well and stay tuned.